Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the least listened to podcast on the globe, the Sixth Sense Media Podcast, with your host, Mike Phelan.
Hi, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm always great. It's a beautiful day in Greensboro.
So, my first question is, why the toy industry? Why make that your passion and your career?
Oh, have you seen behind me?
I know I got the same problem.
Yeah, it would look like this whether I worked in the toy industry or not. Yeah, I mean, just like yourself and a lot of the people that I think are on your channel and on my channel on YouTube, Spector Creative, shameless plug. Um, I've been a collector my whole life. I've always loved toys. As I when I basically wanted to get into the toy industry right out of college, and after getting rejection letters for several years, or not as much rejection letters as much as the standard postcards from Hasbro and Mattel telling me they had my resume on file. I finally managed to connect directly with someone and really land what was a dream job. I never expected to get to do what I've done, but it's absolutely been passion driven. I love toys. I love the psychology behind toys. I love collecting toys. I love the feeling of getting toys, and yeah, it really just comes from love.
That's something that it's kind of hard to explain to people that aren't into it. Like my wife doesn't care at all for anything in the entertainment industry. So when she sees that, like I buy, you know, a Miss Pac-Man machine, or I buy a giant axe, or something like that, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get why a grown man wants this stuff. But there's something. It's not adolescence per se, but it's something else. But I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's just something about the details of the toys, the art that goes into them, that's just so endearing to people.
And I mean, I can completely relate on our third date. The first time my wife came to my apartment and she saw I had Narsil on my wall. When you were saying, a giant axe, like, yeah, here it's like you have a giant sword hanging on your wall. That's interesting. Um, but I mean, she's definitely grown to be very supportive and understand it. One of the things, though, that really, as I said, that fascinated me about toys is that the psychology behind it. And I think it kind of comes down to the two things of acquisition, that having a complete collection, I mean, the old superpowers, collect them all,
Mm-hmm.
gives us such a feeling of accomplishment. And I mean, that's a good thing. Most hobbies don't, I mean, don't necessarily provide that. I mean, you can go fishing or hunting, have a trophy to mount, or maybe get a good score in golf. But with action figures, it's not like just watching sports where it's passive. It's an interactive hobby. And these characters that we collect are mostly, fictional characters. I mean, every once in a while you might get like a George Washington action figure, but it gives us control over it. Here's Thanos, right? One of the most powerful characters in the universe. Well, I have the ability to pose him any way I want and make him do it. I could have him talk to a space bunny, and have an adventure with a space bunny. It gives me control. And we watch this entertainment, which is passive, but having action figures, I think, really gives people a sense of ownership over these fictional characters that we love so much.
That makes sense. It's I have a daughter who I got her into He-Man recently.
Way to
And
go.
yeah, thanks to the Origins line. But just to see her, once I explained the relationships, at first she was like, I don't really care for He-Man. But then I found She-Ra, luckily enough. And I said, this is her brother. And then I broke it down even further. I even said, okay, Skeletor is married to Eva Lynn. I tried to break it down into the relationships that I know she plays with her Barbies with. And once she had that information, she took it and expanded on it in ways that I didn't even think she would. And then when I got her Castle Grayskull last week, it blew up. She's like, oh my God, there's an actual world now that I can use all this in. And maybe it's trying to hold on to that little bit of wonder that we had as a kid also makes continues to make toys endearing. There's something about that innocence that we just trying to latch onto, just a tiny bit of it. And that's the easiest way I can think of explaining it on my end. It's just I get so much happiness seeing how she enjoys playing with those things, and I kind of want that for myself. And I know I can't have that anymore, but it's just by proxy, I guess, would be the easiest way to say it.
Yeah. How old's your daughter?
7.
7. Mine's 11. Yeah, in a way, like, it kind of saddens me that I don't know how to play with toys anymore. It's like I remember like making up I grew up in Connecticut, and one of the things I loved about that was the weather. So every winter, Hoff fell in my backyard, and we lived next to the woods. So Endor was like next to my house, and it's like now, yeah, action figures are like trophies on our walls, and being able to sit down and be like, there's nothing like sitting down with kids. Yeah, that is wonderful. And it's like when kids get the story, and it's like one of the big things I'm always saying is, when people say like, the problem with kids using tablets these days and screens and not playing with toys, there's a simple answer to all that. Parent your child.
Yeah.
Like, take responsibility. Like, take the tablet out of their hand and put, a doll, an action figure, a board game, a chess piece, a jump rope, a ball, whatever. Kids need play, especially now with everything going on with the, being shut down for a year and not having, being able to, converse with their peers and have playtime at school, and losing out on that. Kids need play so badly. My wife is a child play therapist. So, this is like all we talk about between my interest in toys and her professional, views of it. It's like play is so important.
How did you first get into Mattel? What was that process that broke you into that industry?
So I even though I grew up in Connecticut, but I moved to California a little before high school, and then went to college in California. I lived in Orange County, which is about an hour south of Los Angeles. And every time we would drive up to Los Angeles, the main freeway, there's the 405, or AKA the parking lot.
Yeah.
And back then in the 80s and 90s, Mattel had its headquarters in Hawthorne, and it was right off the 405. So as you'd be driving, you would see this giant brick building with the Mattel spiked logo right there. And I was like, oh my God, Mattel? Like, the people who make He-Man are right there? That was like mind blowing. So, I went to college. I studied film and communication. I actually wrote my senior thesis on using action figures as a marketing vehicle for movies, as opposed to just like a toy. And I got a C on it because my professor said it was too opinionated. And I wanted to send her my business card years later and say, it's not an opinion when you're right. But regardless, so I was always very passionate about toys. But like I said, I started sort of applying to Mattel right after college. But it's hard to get your foot in the door. And what did it for me was going to Comic-Con in San Diego, being lucky enough that I could just drive down there, and back, 20 years ago, you could just walk into the show and buy a ticket. And so I was there with my, I had been working in advertising I was working in glaucoma medication advertising at a college. I got my first job as a writer doing medical promotional materials and ads for a large pharmaceutical company, and was specifically working. I could tell you more about glaucoma that you ever wanted to know. But what interested Mattel was, I was at the Mattel booth and struck up a conversation with a gentleman, Eddie Hayden, who was the Justice League brand manager for the Bruce Timm figures. Probably there's prototype Blackhawk, these guys. Although this one's not painted. I was actually there to show someone completely different my portfolio, but he mentioned, he's like, Mattel is always looking for writers. And when I showed him my portfolio, realizing that what I was doing was navigating all of the fine print of medical advertising, and the adverse events and the warnings and the government labels. I hadn't realized how transferable that skill set is to the toy industry, because the toy industry is also very regulated. Small part warning, licensor logos, international warning logos, all of that stuff. And so they happened to be looking for a copywriter in Hot Wheels who had that skill set. And so he was able to get me an interview, and I came in, and they were very impressed, not only with the skill set of being able to actually write sort of commercial copy that was aware of the legal aspects, which is not a skill set I think every writer does, but also my passion for toys. I remember in my initial interview, or it was like a round robin, and one of the VPs who interviewed me asked me the last time I went into a toy store, and I said, 15 minutes ago on my way in, I went to one to kind of like walk the aisle and relax, and he was like blown away that I did that. Like, I do that every day. So yeah, my passion basically got me in the door, and that skill set, and I was able to sort of work my way up from being a writer in the packaging Hot Wheels group to getting into the marketing group, where I pitched doing more adult collector product, essentially saying, I'm buying X amount of dollars of toys every month for me, not for my daughter, not for other kids' friends, for me. And none of that is going to my own company, Mattel, at the time. So I said, we should really take advantage of this market. And I put together a proposal, and the general manager, Tim Kilpin, who actually also started as a writer and worked his way up to he was the marketing manager on He-Man in 83, 84. He created the Snake Men. So he kind of really saw a lot of sort of me and him, I guess you could say. And he gave me a shot, moved me over into the marketing group, and I got put on DC because they had just gotten the master license for the DC, like not just Superman and Batman that they had previously, everybody. So I ran DCU Classics, and MattyCollector became sort of the fruition of my proposal. And I spent about 10 years at Mattel, getting to meet amazing people, work on amazing product. And after that, I stayed in the toy industry. I still am. I worked for Jax Pacific for a while as a director of marketing for Jada, Entertainment Earth. And then about 2 years ago, my family and I moved to Greensboro, North Carolina. And since then, I have operated Spector Creative, SpectorCreative.com, or Spector Creative YouTube, plug number 2, shameless. And I consult with both large toy companies and individual entrepreneurs who want to develop toy product, or really I've done beauty product. I have a client who's done embroidery product. But what I really learned in the toy industry, which kind of sets my consulting firm apart, is everything, every client I have, every toy, anything is always from the emotional connection. Because as we were saying in the beginning, toys have such a unique emotional connection, especially to adults. I mean, to kids, they're playthings, but to us, it's different. And cracking that has really been the secret of my success, or has been the key to a lot of what I've been able to accomplish, is attacking any project, whether it's making DCU Classics figures or Jada minis, or helping my client who does embroidery work, understanding what is the emotional connection between the consumer and the product, not just, oh, I need that, or oh, I want that. Like, why do they need that? What is it alleviating boredom? Is it creating a sense of accomplishment? Is it making someone feel in control? So that's what I love about toys. They do all that.
Speaking of your time at Mattel and Matty Classics, I was big, or not, I'm sorry, Matty
Motu Classic.
Motu Classics and MattyCollector. Do you think that MattyCollector came about at the wrong time? The reason I say this is because when Motu Classics and Ghostbusters launched, it was right at the recession. So me and everybody else was unemployed, and then along comes a new Ghostbuster line of great figures by the Four Horsemen, and there was just no money to go around. So I know it kind of petered out a little bit at the end, but do you think it would have been better if it had started later or started earlier?
It's interesting that you put it that way, because I was also very affected by the economic crash. Like we had just bought a condo like 6 months earlier, and now suddenly it was worth less than we paid for it 6 months earlier. But what I would almost kind of sort of counter with is it worked so much better then, in the sense that if we try to do that now, toys have gotten so expensive. Like back then, when we Motu Classics figure was $20 when we launched. By the time the line ended in 2015, they were $25. Okay, well, fast forward today, and a Marvel Legends figure is $25.
Yep.
So imagine what a Matty collect. Could we really sell, Motu Classics for like $40 or $50 a pop? Super 7 is kind of doing that.
Yeah, with their Ultimates line, yeah.
Exactly. So I think it would actually be a lot harder today. I think like it's funny because I've thought about that several times, and I think I'm very grateful we did it when we did it, because Castle Grayskull was what, $350, I think. I mean, we're talking, it would be at least like $700-800 now for the same exact toy.
That's what Snake Mountain was going for when it came out. 2 years ago, I think. And
that would probably be even $100 or $200 more now. I mean, labor is skyrocketing. I actually did a video about this thing just last week. Because people are really concerned about the increasing. Both Mattel and Hasbro have publicly released press releases saying, "Yep, prices are going up before Christmas." But I know why from being in the toy industry. It's labor. Labor is the driving factor behind that, and for that reason, I think that MattyCollector was the right. I mean, it absolutely global recession, that was not, didn't help, but I think it would be worse now.
Yeah, even when I did get a job, I made sure I was putting money aside for those things, and I would be at my desk in my office, and when something would drop on MattyCollector, I'd be the first guy there refreshing that page.
It was you.
Yeah.
You were the.
I was the guy that was crashing it, because I had to get the Neutrona Wand. I had to get, before they launched the subscription service for Ghostbusters, to get that Ghostbuster figure, because I mean that was important to me. That was kind of my therapy for being unemployed for almost a year. I'd never been unemployed since I was 15, so it really messed me up not having a job. And then when I finally got one, I was like, I need these things as my form of therapy. I need a Peter Venkman figure in a box, brand new, just put it on a shelf. I feel better. I feel like I'm starting to accomplish something.
And that's like exactly what we said at the very start about how, feeling of accomplishment, like these little things, they're 6-inch figures, but it makes us feel very accomplished and comforted. I had a thought with like the first thing you said. You're saying about being at work, and it's gone, but I'm sure it'll be back.
Refreshing and trying to get into MattyCollector, because I guess there must have been a huge influx of traffic on that site.
Yeah, and we did. I know there was a lot of the issues: red screen of death, white screen of death, digital river. The thing is, and I hate saying it like this, but we were doing the best we could with the resources we had. I look at things like Hasbro Pulse now, and I'm so jealous, because like when they did the sail barge and they had like 3D walkthrough models. We had like a foam model that I personally cut out and like propped up. Like we were literally doing it with like spit and Jawa wax. And I look at what Hasbro Pulse is doing, or even Mattel has like their new sort of MattyCollector. Was it Mattel Creations? Did I say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm so jealous that they have such, it's not that anyone was against us. I mean, we were very supportive, but we just didn't have that much resources in terms of, money, like non-media to spend on advertising, or even like, I mean, we were doing it all like, on the weekends and at night, and like all of the images from MattyCollector, we were like shooting on someone's empty cubicle. Like, I mean, it was really, for a giant company like Mattel, it's like surprising that we were doing it like so much on the fly. And I wish we'd had more resources, like we had better shipping, more bandwidth. And I remembered the thought I had, it was that, it would have been great to be able to have Ghostbusters and Motu Classics at retail, but nobody wanted it. I think like there's like rumors around that like we purposely held it back from retail, but looking at the context, you have to remember there was no Ghostbuster movie, unlike
Mhm.
now. There's Ghostbuster product at retail because there's a movie.
Yep.
You know, the He-Man has 2 cartoon shows on right now, hence content drives retail interest. And the last Motu line before Classics came packaged with VHSs.
Yes, I had those. I had those 2 figures. Yep.
And it bombed at retail. It totally tanked at retail. It barely made it a year and a half. The
Mhm.
collector product that was sold at conventions did great, which is how we knew there was a collector audience. But the kid audience, which supports retail lines, was non-existent.
Mhm.
So yeah, like the only person that was interested was like Entertainment Earth, but their quotas weren't even close to what you would have needed to do a retail line. So we needed like a Target, a Toys R Us. You know, we tested it at Toys R Us, like with those 2-packs with Superman
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, I remember
and
this.
Ghostbuster items, but they did okay. They didn't, you know, do
Mhm.
good enough for Toys R Us to say, "Hey, we want a whole He-Man line, or we want a whole Ghostbusters line." Yeah, you need a movie. You need cartoon shows.
Yeah, I think the only time I saw Ghostbusters, there was a 4-pack of the Ghostbuster 2 Christmas ones, and then Walmart had their own 4 Horsemen Ghostbuster figures. But I remember, I think I bought one, and then I opened it up and compared it next to my other one, and the quality was just, it was crap. It wasn't the same.
So really interesting. I should totally do a video about this one. So I left Mattel before in 2014, 2015,
Mhm.
and then the Ghostbuster movie with the girls that came out in 16, the one we
Yep.
all tried. And when we did Ghostbuster Classics on Matty, which is funny because I never said that on package, but that's always how I referred to it. Like we had
Mhm.
Motu Classics, DC Classics, that was supposed to be Ghostbuster Classics. My plan in the back of my head, and part of the justification for the tooling and the way I sold it in management was, in a movie year, we'll be able to take these same tools, strip them down, you know, deco wise, accessory wise, and sell them at retail. And when I saw that line at Walmart, I'm like, that was the plan. And yes, the reason they felt cheaper, that was deliberate because the
Mhm.
Matty versions were the collector versions. The ones at retail were kid versions. They weren't meant for the discriminating collector. And that's why, you know, they didn't have, like, we made sure that the Matty versions had all those accessories, like the books and the ghosts and the traps and all that stuff. It was all very deliberate, knowing that if a movie year happened, we could take the same tool, because that's the expensive part, is the tool. Once you
Mhm.
have own the mold, it's very inexpensive to make a figure. You're just playing for the, you know, the plastic and the labor, as opposed to the mold is like a large capital investment of 100 grand per figure. So yeah, your evaluation is right on. That it was meant to be a, what we say, cheaper but cost reduced
Right.
version, because that we knew that we could never. Matty allowed us to afford that deco and afford that quality because we could upcharge. That's why you got it.
What's your opinion on how Super 7 handled Motu Classics when they took over?
Um, I mean, I did buy all the classics figures. I didn't buy the animation ones just because I wouldn't have collected that anyway, even if I was at Mattel.
Yeah.
Like sort of like, but I mean, that's just like a personal thing, you know, like that was my line. So I did get them all. Some of them, like Lodar, were figures that I worked on that were developed at Mattel, that when they took over, they, you know, just picked up the ball and ran with it.
Mhm.
Others were original characters that were not worked on, like Fangor and the Mummy, Rat Trap. You could definitely tell a very distinct quality change in the plastic. Um, but I mean, for me, I was just excited that it was continuing. You know, I wish it hadn't had to end. I thought they were like improving with each wave. Um, Obviously, the prices made me cringe a little bit, but I understood why. You know, it's such a small company, like what they
Mhm.
needed to charge. Um, but overall, I mean, I thought, you know, my favorite thing they were doing was basically almost like the Origins figures, when they were doing characters that looked like they came out in the 80s,
Mhm.
like doing Hero and Eldor on the Power of Grayskull cards. Is like brilliant, loved it, like so awesome. I hate that they had that like pulled away, because I thought they were right on the money with what they were doing. So yeah, I mean, fan of it. I mean, there were definitely QC issues, but you know, it was cool. I liked it. Hi, my cat walked in.
And what are your thoughts on the Origins line? Actually getting it in retail at an affordable price. What do you think about how those figures look and feel?
I mean, I definitely really like it. I don't own that many.
Mhm.
Much like I was saying about the Club Grayskull, the Filmation one, I already kind of have my definitive He-Man collection in classics, and it's like only how many definitive He-Man collections do I either A, have the budget for, or room to display.
Mhm.
So I've definitely cherry picked Origins, but the ones I've gotten, I've been really happy with. I have Scareglow, I have Skeletor, She-Ra, and Tila there. I'd buy Trapjaw if I could ever find him.
Yeah.
But I think they're very kid friendly. I love the bright colors. I love that they don't have much deco. That most of the colors done with plastic, color
Mm-hmm.
that is very friendly for kids. And I love the customization aspect that you can pull them apart in so many ways. We should have done that with classics. That's awesome. What concerns me is that it's at retail.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's going to take kids it's a sofa bed line. It's not quite a kid line and not quite a collector line, versus Revelation is clearly a collector line.
Mm-hmm.
And the CGI show is clearly a kid line, like line in the sand.
Yeah.
So what worries me about Origins from working in the toy industry is that it's kind of straddling that line. And that's tough because, again, you look at 2000X, the line sold great to collectors. We loved it, but we're not enough. It needed kids to keep it at retail.
Mm-hmm.
Professionally, from an analyst standpoint, I think that Origins was always just meant as a placeholder to stake out that space at retail so that the Netflix content-related product, both Revelations and CGI, could then take that over. If I was a betting man, by February when the next retail switchover happens, it'll just be Revelation and CGI product.
Mm.
I'm not rooting for Origins to fail. I would love for it to keep going. I want a Mighty Spector. Not going to happen. But it worries me that it's a lot like, kids need to really know the brand. Maybe they will discover it through the Netflix stuff and they'll also like Origins, but one of the reasons that the 2000X series didn't do well with kids is the design aesthetic wasn't appealing to kids of that generation. They saw He-Man as a naked guy in a furry underwear.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as kids in the 80s, we saw him. I mean, we had Stallone and Schwarzenegger and, all these muscular, heroes in the movies. So, and now all of the superheroes are these skinny nerds. Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, Tony Stark. They're not giant muscle men.
Mm-hmm.
So I want it to succeed. I really, really do. I just, as a fan and as an industry insider, I have concerns about its longevity.
I honestly don't know if the Kevin Smith Masters of the Universe thing is going to pull kids in. I just, even if I were to watch it and just forget everything I know about Masters, there was nothing in it that would be like, wow, I really want to get to know more about this. It's kind of like you're kind of downgrading your main hero and you're being very cynical about it. And kids don't want cynicism in their play, that they don't understand it.
Well, I agree, but I don't think that show is for kids at all. I mean,
No.
Even from a content, there's blood and
Mm-hmm.
but have you seen the CGI show?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, and Neon and Geeky Sparkles have covered it quite a bit, but it'd be hard for me to sit down and actually watch it and kind of turn off that part of my brain that's going to want to pick it apart. But I may let my daughter watch and see what she says. But the overall aesthetic, I actually really like. I like that it's not trying to replicate Filmation. It's not trying to replicate 2000X. It's its own thing, totally separate. And I think that if you can actually find the toy line, that's another point. I've yet to find a single action figure from that line in any store here in Florida.
Have you gone to Walmart?
Yes.
Really?
Our Walmarts, basically, if you walk down the action figure aisle at Walmart, they're dead. You'll find one GI Joe figure. You'll find a old school Kenner Ghostbuster figure, a whole bunch of Godzilla and vs Kong stuff, and then it's still dead. Even Masters of the Universe, they'll always have a Skeletor and a He-Man, but that's it. No play sets, no other figures. Even at Target, it's Skeletor, He-Man, nothing else. And that figure line has not made it into that retail space here, at least, and like 5 Targets that we have in Tampa that are almost right next to each other.
Well, because I think the CGI show is exclusive to Walmart for this season, so you're not anywhere else. It was part of the deal that they made with Walmart that goes back to Origins. It was like, I mean, obviously I don't have any inside knowledge. I wasn't there for the deal, but I know how this stuff works because I've made similar deals with retailers. And I mean, I do know it's exclusive to Walmart. I mean, I have read that factually. And I'm guessing, and I mean, I know I'm extrapolating, but based on my experience, the deal with Origins having that exclusive window, and the deal was part of the deal with CGI because, you know, I'm picturing the selling meeting with the Walmart buyer, who is an awesome guy. I know him well. I respect him. You know, saying, okay, if you guys take Origins in 2020 and you take it for an exclusive window, we will give you an exclusive window on the new show's product. Because again, that's the money's with kids, and that's the line that should sell well. I've seen the show. I've watched all the episodes. It's great for kids, from my opinion. I mean, it not only hits the spreadsheet things, like all of the characters have transformations, they all have icons, they all have visual powers and signature weapons, like all that kind of stuff. But it has heart, it has humor. You know, I have high hope. I mean, of all the content for Masters Universe that's come out since Filmation, you know, including New Adventures and 2000X and the Dolph Lundgren movie, I think that this CGI show has the best shot of getting a new generation into the brand. I think it's very well done for kids. Revelation, you know, I think was supposed to be a love letter to the fans, but unfortunately got maybe written by people who aren't fans. Would be maybe a way of, you know, I know Geeky Sparkles has said things like that.
Kevin Smith already dragged us through the dirt for calling him out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I followed the drama, and I love Kevin Smith's Clerks cartoon. It was like and still is one of my favorite things. When I heard he was making He-Man, I was like, all right, more cartoons from Kevin Smith. And then I saw the show. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it the way I think a lot of people did, because I went into it very like, well, it's going to be a what if, you know. But the problem was it was marketed poorly. They marketed it as a sequel to Filmation. Which legally and physically it's not. And if they just said this is going to be like Marvel's What If was advertised as crazy, wacky, Carter is Captain America and Captain America's a zombie, and you know, like they didn't hide behind that, and What If was fun. And I think that if they'd marketed Revelation as like, okay, it's an all new take. It's, you know, a what if on the He-Man universe, I think it would have gone over better.
Yeah, I think if they had started from ground up with something original, it feels like it was a sequel to the toy line, the original toy line, than anything else. Maybe some of the mini comics.
That's all Mattel has legal access to. You know, I mean, for some reason, people don't believe me when I say things online, but Mattel loses the rights to Masters of the Universe in 2023 to Universal. Like, you know, if you don't believe me, somebody ask Mattel that. Like, I find it so funny when people like keep posting, like, you know, that I'm lying, or I'm like, maybe things changed, but when I left, you know, that was pretty written in stone. Like, that was not changing. So, you know,
I was surprised that they were no longer making DC figures, because for the longest time it was your group and Mattel making those classic figures, and when it stopped and it started spreading out to McFarlane and everybody else, it's like, wow, this is a change. I don't know if I particularly like it.
DC pulled the license.
It wasn't just part of a deal that just fell through. It just
Oh
they
no,
yeah.
no, Mattel failed to do what DC and Warner wanted them to do, and they pulled the
Ah,
license.
wow, I didn't know that. I was unaware. Huh.
And then they broke it up because Mattel had the master license.
Yep.
So that's what they broke it up over multiple companies. Mattel still has a portion of it. They have preschool, and some other things like Imagine X. But yeah, no, this was not Mattel's like choice.
Yeah, I miss seeing those classic figures because whenever there was an interesting Batman, I would always grab one. Or if there was like a Superman that looked closer to Christopher Reeve, I would grab that. And I thought that line was great, and it always seemed to be taking up most of the space in the action figure aisle at a Target. It always had a nice like 5 rows of figures. But now that I'm looking, when I see DC figures now and I see them from McFarlane, I'm kind of like, just it's not going to look right sitting next to like my Doctor Fate or something else because they don't have that same look that's coming right out of the comic. They just I don't know how to explain that. It's aesthetically just not my thing because I got so used to how Mattel made them that I really liked it.
Well, and what I liked the most about DCU Classics was the fact that it blended so well with every other, Marvel Legends
Hmm.
and Motu Classics. You could pose them next to each other. What Todd is doing over at McFarlane is, I mean, and he said this at conventions and stuff. He basically wanted to do something very different. He
Hmm.
wanted to go in a different direction. He didn't want to just like continue doing. He deliberately did it in a 7-inch scale, which that it's amazing how much that 1 inch really does change things. You can get away with half an inch at either direction, but like you can go 6.5 or 5.5, and it'll still work. But once you hit 7 inches, it doesn't blend. And you said like, well, what style? It's Todd McFarlane's style. It's
Hmm.
Todd's interpretation, which is legit. I mean, he can do that. But yeah, not for me. I mean, I have a lot of Spawn figures from the '90s. I got Mel Bulge over there.
Hmm.
I've got some Angelas behind me. Um, I love Todd McFarlane's toys. I don't get the DC toys for the same reason as you. They don't go with the rest of my collection.
Yep.
But for those who like it, God bless. And Spin Master's doing kid product. That's the thing. They're doing product that ideally appeals to children.
Yeah.
And hopefully more kids are playing with, more DC characters these days.
My final question would be: how is there a way to strike a balance between the kid market and the collector market to make more of these IPs flourish? Is there any way that a Mattel or a Hasbro could make something that's affordable but good enough for the discerning collector?
I mean, Marvel Legends does that, I think, very well. As does Star Wars Black Series. We tend as collectors to be skewed and say, "Oh, that's for me," but they wouldn't be earning their space in the retail aisle, where, as it said in the industry, performing the velocity necessary, which means like the sales per week, etc. If they didn't also sell to kids. So I mean, yes, I mean, they're out there, like if you look at what Star Wars was doing back when Daryl the Priest was running the line for, 10, 12 years, during like Power of the Jedi through like episode 1,
Hmm.
you know, that was an amazing time because again, the bulk of those toys were selling to kids, but they were doing like the most obscure, General Nadine and Effet Mon and like these characters that kids would have no idea. And to me, that really represents that perfect harmony of kid and collector. You've got interesting looking alien characters, but they still keep Darth Vader on shelf as much as possible. Um, it circling back to our, opening questions about, kids with screens and stuff. It really, and MattyCollector, when you were asking if it was the right time, it's a changed world now. It's not what it was in the '80s when we had so much new toy content. Everything from My Little Pony to He-Man, Transformers, all these new shows. Care Bears, Gem, all of this stuff generating toys and content. Now, with everything being the things that have changed, you've got kids binging shows on Netflix. So they'll go through an entire show in a day or a week, and there's no time. It's not like with us where, every, weekday when He-Man was on, or every Friday or Saturday morning, and then we would go, instead of the whole around the water cooler, you'd gather around the slide and you discuss it. And that doesn't exist anymore. So there's no time for that communal feeling or like fandom to be nurtured. And between that and screens and TikTok, like replacing toy time, and with the pandemic and everybody being under such stress and parents being like, fine, just use the screen. Like I'm so exhausted. It's all, it's tough.
Mhm.
Very tough time. What I think is needed the most is new IP, like new, completely original concepts that would work for toys. And the obstacle to that is a lot of the people that control the purse strings are very hesitant to greenlight something that's not proven.
Mhm.
Which is why we have Star Wars 9.0 and He-Man 5.0 and et cetera, et cetera. Greenlighting something, I mean, the idea that He-Man launched with no content back in the day, just colorful box art and mini comics, is like mind blowing today.
Mhm.
So I have hope. I really do. I think the world, we need new content. That's the best thing to get kids and collectors united, because if they can get around a brand new brand and it can become sort of a beacon of this generation, both for kids and us as adults, that could really turn things around.
All right, Scott. Thank you very much for coming on. I truly appreciate it. I've been watching your channel for a while, much to my wife's chagrin. 'Cause she's like, "How could you listen to someone talk about toys?" I'm like, I work in the entertainment industry. I need to know what's going on and how things change and what happened, and I want to know what happened to these huge toy lines. So listening to you talk about your experiences has been eye-opening for one, and great to know that someone that was very passionate about DC and He-Man was trying to make the best product possible for guys like me who want to spend all our disposable income on on 6-inch muscle men.
Hey, I'm sitting in your chair too. Absolutely. I do it out of love. And thank you for having me on. It's great to chat toys because, yeah, it's like, well, like you said, I don't get to chat with my wife about, Frogman here. So it's wonderful to be able to chat toys. And, anyone, yeah, shameless plug, final number 3
Yep.
for my YouTube channel. I always love suggestions for topics. So, go in the comment section, let me know what people want to know. And if it's something I can answer about how toys are made or my thoughts on stuff, love to hear from people because I love getting topic suggestions because I do a video every day. So check it out, Spector Creative on YouTube.
You've been listening to the Sixth Sense Media Podcast. You can find more of our celebrity, composer, musician, and filmmaker interviews, as well as pop culture roundtable discussions on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Pandora. Be sure to check out our vast library of entertainment industry coverage, including on-set reporting from your favorite TV series and movies at sixthsense.com.